Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Middleware Technologies. Today we'll be looking at OpenLDAP, which is an open source software package to build an LDAP service. So basically what I'm trying to do in this video is we are going to compile and install OpenLDAP software package on Ubuntu operating system, that is 22.04, and we will be trying to set up a standalone LDAP directory service with the set of tools that are provided by the OpenLDAP package. And then we will be trying to utilize some of the LDAP utilities to like create, modify and delete entries from the LDAP directory tree. So that is all like we are going to do in this video on OpenLDAP. Okay, so as I said, like I'm currently working on Ubuntu 22.04 operating system. Okay, before going on to the details of how we can build and install the OpenLDAP, let us try to understand what is OpenLDAP. So majorly, like all the organizations will have LDAP directory service in their organization, which holds information related to their assets. Assets can be anything like machines, users, groups, printers, or servers, data centers, any kind of information that an organization wants to store and want to retrieve through browsing the directory or searching the directory, that can be stored in the LDAP directory tree. So that is the whole thing about the OpenLDAP. And also like OpenLDAP is an implementation of the LDAP protocol that is a lightweight directory access protocol which is used to access the LDAP directory service which is provided by OpenLDAP. And how it so basically this LDAP protocol is an enhanced implementation of the directory access protocol, which was previously used to access the LDAP or the directory server. Also, like the information that is stored in the OpenLDAP in the LDAP directory is in the form of a DIT. What is DIT is? DIT means directory information tree. So it holds the information in a directory structure, and each object that is present in that directory is called an entry. Okay, and that entry basically can be anything, like an entry can define a machine, an entry can define a user, an entry can define a group. Okay, so these entries are uniquely identifiable using attribute called distinguished name, DM. Okay, so these are some of the information related to the OpenLDAP. And also, like OpenLDAP can replicate the information to other servers. So what does it mean is, basically we can have multiple LDAP servers which are catering to the clients for the directory service, and these LDAP servers like which are working in a cluster can replicate the information in between them. So there is a configuration called producer and consumer, wherein the producer is going to be the primary server and consumers are going to be the secondary servers, which consume the information or the updates that are happening on the producer server. So that is somewhat advanced topics related to the OpenLDAP, but here like we are going to restrict ourselves to a standalone LDAP service which can cater to us in a local environment. So now let us try to look at the different configurations that are provided by the OpenLDAP. So as I said, like we are going to look at the local standalone directory service, that is the first one, which can be used for local development environment purpose. The other one is the local directory service with reference. So let's say like if you have a local directory service already present with some data in the directory tree, but if you try to search for entry in the local directory which is not present, it will try to refer to another external LDAP server that is like referred using the reference. So this is the configuration that will be used in the reference configuration choice. And the third one is replicated directory service. So as I mentioned, this is the service which we can define wherein we have multiple LDAP servers, like a producer LDAP server and a consumer LDAP server, wherein the producer LDAP server takes all the changes and it can push those changes to the consumer servers who are serving in different locations for the LDAP directory, or these consumer servers can pull the data from the producer in the form of refresh only mode. Okay, so these are different modes in which the replicated directory service can perform, but this is again advanced topic which we can look at later on. And the fourth one is distributed local directory service. So it is basically having multiple directory service or LDAP service which are like replicating the data of the LDAP directory in between each other, so that this service can be provided throughout the data center or throughout the data centers which is spread across different zones, so that every user or every client will be able to get the data with high availability and reliability. And coming to SLAP-D implementation. So OpenLDAP basically is the service that is OpenLDAP basically has SLAP-D, which is an implementation of the LDAP service. So the features of the SLAP-D are as below. Okay, so if we get into the details of this, it supports LDAP over IPv4 and IPv6 and Unix IPC socket. Okay, and it supports authentication and data security using the SASL framework, that is simple authentication and security layer framework. And it also supports certificate based authentication and data security using the TLS implementation, which can be either the GNU TLS or the OpenSSL. And we can restrict the access to the OpenLDAP service at the socket layer based on the network topology that is also a part of the SLAP-D implementation. And we can control access to the entries based on like what different criteria, like from which IP address the search is happening, and whether the user is authorized to access that information, or what type of domain is trying to access that entries. So that kind of restrictions can be applied in the SLAP-D implementation. And we can have multiple databases in the LDAP directory. So basically LDAP directory can serve for a particular domain in one database, and it can serve for another domain. Let's say we have two domains, stack.com and stack.net. So we can have two different databases in the same LDAP service serving for different domains. So that is called multi-database. And we have a front end that handles the protocol communication with the LDAP client, and modules which handle the specific tasks such as database operations. Okay, so we have the LDAP follows the client server model, and these components, like the client and the server, they communicate using the C API. Okay, the C API, and these modules, which are the backend services, we can say, they provide the necessary services for the database and the overlay services, which are used to so database services are used to store and retrieve the directory data, and the overlay services are used to like basically provide audit logging, access logging services through functions. And these are these can be these can be basically customized, or we can extend the modules or use the customized modules and call them using the C API. And SLAP-D supports multi-threaded process, basically handling all the incoming requests using a pool of threads, threads. And it supports replication service. As I said, it supports the producer and consumer configuration, and it can act as an LDAP proxy service, which basically gets the request from the client and proxies them into the other LDAP servers. And it is highly configurable to single configuration file. Right now, like OpenLDAP supports configuration support using the latest LDIF format. Previously it was supporting the LDAP configuration using the slapd.conf file, but now it has been deprecated, and we are using the LDAP format to support the configuration for the slapd. And you can follow this documentation, like basically if you go into the browser and search for OpenLDAP documentation. So let me go to my browser and search for OpenLDAP documentation, and it will try and directly take you to the OpenLDAP documentation page, wherein you can refer to the OpenLDAP 2.6 administrator's guide, which is the latest one, and you will get all the information related to the OpenLDAP. Okay, now let us go into our implementation part, wherein we will try to compile, install, and try to use the set of LDAP utilities that are provided by OpenLDAP package in order to set up our local directory service. So as a first step, like we need to have the necessary packages installed on our system, that is GCC and make. So basically, like on Ubuntu like desktop operating system that you install, by default the make and GCC packages are not available. So what we need to do is we need to install GCC and make as a prerequisite step, because that is these are the important like the very basic packages that are required in order to compile, build and install OpenLDAP source package. Okay, so I already have these packages, so it is good. So let me clear my screen. Now let us go into our next step, that is download and extract the OpenLDAP package. So what we are going to do is we are going to basically download the OpenLDAP source. So if you go into the browser and search for OpenLDAP download, it will directly take you to the download page, wherein you can just hover over the feature release 2.6.7 and you can download the tar.gz file, that is tgz file, which is a compressed open source source package. Okay, so that is what I am doing over here in this my second step. So I am going to get this package and download using wget. And once the download is completed, the next step that we are going to do is we are going to extract our package. Okay, so the download is completed. So we have the package already. So I already have this package, but it has downloaded with this another name, but that is fine. And we need to extract the package. So I have already extracted it using this tar command. So it will basically extract into the folder OpenLDAP 2.6.7. Okay, so now you can change into that directory and clear your section. Now let us go into our next step, that is configuring the OpenLDAP software package. So basically, we are following the build and installations procedure for installing the OpenLDAP service. So the first step that we are going to do, the thing that we need to do is we need to configure our package so that we define the locations wherein we want to install the OpenLDAP package and what type of modules or features we want to enable. Okay, so if you look at the configures script help, it will provide you with all the options that you can pass to it in order to, let's say, what type of what directories you want to customize, like the bin directory, the bin directory wherein the slab D utilities are stored, the lib execute, the config directory wherein you want to store the slab D configuration. So these all information can be customized using this configure script. And also, we can disable and enable some the whatever features that you want to utilize within the slab D implementation. Okay, so these are some of the backends that you can enable, and these are some of the overlay functionalities that you can enable as a part of LDAP feature. Okay, so these are all the things that you can configure before you actually install the OpenLDAP package. But right now we are going to go with the default configuration. So I'll just run /configure, and it is going to configure our OpenLDAP package. Once the configure step is completed, like in the last line you will see, please run make depend to build the dependencies. So that is what we are going to do as a part of our next step, step 4, that is building the software package. So we are going to first compile the dependencies, and then we are going to compile the package, that is OpenLDAP package. Okay, so let me clear my screen and do compile the dependencies for the OpenLDAP package. And this is completed. Now let us try to compile the OpenLDAP package. So let me pause for a moment while it is completed. Now my build step is completed. So basically we are now good to install our OpenLDAP package. So now before that, there is one more step that you can carry out, that is test the build package. Okay, so for that we need to basically run make test, which is going to run some of the test cases that are available in test scripts folder. Okay, so if I go into the test folder, scripts folder, in that you will have some tests. So these are the tests with numbers 003, 004. So there are multiple steps, test cases that are carried out using this test, which will be done in order to validate the LDAP service. Okay, so we can run it and try to see what it does. So you can see it is running the test case 001 slab D. So if you look at, so it basically does a lot of tests, doing the LDAP search, creating directories, creating entries, trying to search them with the CA name. So all the different kinds of tests are carried out using these different test cases that are available with the OpenLDAP package. So for now, I'm going to stop this because it will take some time to complete all these test cases, but you can carry out in your environment to see what are the different test cases that are executed in your LDAP service. Now let me clear my screen, and now let us go into our next step, that is step 6, that is installing OpenLDAP package. Okay, so here what we are going to do is we are going to install the package which has now been built and compiled. So the thing that we are going to run is make install using the sudo, so that we need to actually execute it with the sudo or the root privileges, so that it can install the required libraries into the file system. And by default the OpenLDAP is installed at /user/local location. So now we are installing our OpenLDAP package. Okay, so you can see the OpenLDAP package is getting installed at the following location. So if you go into user local, or let me just do ls-ltr user local bin, it will have all the LDAP utilities, the client utilities mostly, and the sbin is going to contain all the server LDAP utilities which can be utilized on the server side. And we have lib folder which contains some set of libraries related to the LDAP, and we have include which consists of a set of headers related to the LDAP service. So this is a location wherein the LDAP service is installed. Let me now clear my screen, and now let us go into our next step, that is step 7, updating the default database configuration file. So LDAP basically when we have installed the LDAP using the compile and install step, it provides us with a default configuration files which are available at user local etc OpenLDAP location. Okay, so here if you look at the file slapd.ld file, this is the latest format of the slapd configuration which is available in the LDIF format. If we try to open this file, we need to open this with sudo. So this is the configuration file that we get it. Let me go to the first line, and cn is equal to so if we try to understand this configuration file, basically it reflects the directory tree that we are going to build using the OpenLDAP package. Okay, so cn is equal to config is basically the top level object, we can say, in the directory structure which follows the object class OLC global. So object class basically tells it acts like a schema which defines what type of attributes can be defined for that particular object, and what are the values that can be provided to that attributes. And it also defines what are the required attributes and what are the attributes that can be provided, but they are optional. So that kind of information is defined in the object classes which acts like a schema defining the rules for your object in the LDAP tree. Now coming to the next section, this is basically the global configuration that is available for all the directory databases, we can say. So these are the default things that we get, and the slapd service, when we run it, it stores the process ID in this process ID file. And we have this OLC referral. Basically, if we are going to use the LDAP service in the local service with referrals mode, we can uncomment this and provide the LDAP service to which the search or the LDAP queries can be referred. But right now, we are going to build a standalone LDAP service, so we are not going to enable this thing. Now let us go a bit further in the configuration file, and here it contains the module object which is subtree, basically subtree of the config, which is a root, and it follows the object class OLC module list. So basically, like we can there are two ways we can enable the modules in OpenLDAP. One is statically, which is basically compiling the modules that we want to use in the slabd daemon itself, and the other one is dynamically, wherein we will be copying the modules into a particular folder, and we are going to load those modules using the OLC module path and OLC module load directives. So this is all about the modules section. And the third one is the schema section, which is also again a subtree or subtree of the config. So basically, like this follows the this provides us with the schema definition files for our LDAP directory tree, which we are going to create. So we are not going to go into more details about the schemas because that is more involved, but you can get into this location on your file system and try to like open these files and try to understand what are schemas and how they are related to the OpenLDAP, the LDAP directory entries that we are going to create, and how they like control the attributes and their values that we are going to define for the entries in the LDAP tree. And the next one is the front-end settings. So basically, this is the database that is going to be having the global settings, which will be applied to all the configuration databases, which we are going to define further down. And now let us go get into our main LDAP, the database definition, that is LMDB database definition, which will actually build our directory structure for the domain. So here, like you can see, like this is not the default this is not the default file that we get, but this is the default file that we get, and we can modify it according to our requirement, and we can just save it in this file. Okay, so if you go into this default one, like this is the default LMDB database that we get, but I have already modified it as per my requirement in the slabd.ldif file. Okay, so if we try to understand this LMDB database configuration, it uses the following object class, that is the schemas for the database, that is mdb config, the database config, OLC database config, and OLC mdb config, and we are defining the database max size as this, and the suffix for our database is going to be stack.com. Okay, so this is our root domain, you can say, which we are going to build using this MDB configuration database. And there are different backend databases that are supported, and one of the primary and the recommended database that we are going to we are using for this directory tree is the MDB backend database, but there are different other databases that are also supported. Okay, and this root DN and root password is basically a root user and password, we can say, for this domain. Okay, and it has unrestricted access, which can create, update, delete, modify. It can do anything within that particular domain. And we are going to store our directory data into the following location, and this directory data needs to be available and it needs to be accessible by the LDAP service. So we need to make sure the permissions on this the directory tree, that directory which we are going to create, has the required permissions for the slabd daemon to write into that location. And the OLC DB index is basically a set of indexes that we are going to create for our object, for our entries and the attributes that we are going to define later on. And OLC access is basically defining what type of access is given to a particular client, like who is anonymous user or authenticated user or a user who created his object. Okay, so that kind of access information is provided over here. So here if you see the attributes, so we are restricting access to the attribute user password, which we are going to define for our users later on once we start creating our entries in the database directory, LDAP directory. So this attribute is basically restricted to access only by the self, like who is the owner of that object and the respective attribute, and by anonymous user who is authenticated, and basically and by the base DN, so this who can write it, and by everybody else it is not accessible. So it means like they will be able to like basically browse, maybe browse the database or directory structure, but they won't be able to look at this attribute in that object or the entry. And we have defined OLC access for all other attributes, which is star by read, by read, by star means basically means by everybody, it can be read. Okay, so this is kind of information that we can define in our database configuration file, which can be customized based on our requirement. And the last one is OLC database monitor, is basically a database which captures the monitoring stats about the LDAP directory. We are not going to get into details of this one in this, but our primary focus is going to be the following MDB database, which we are going to set up for our domain stack.com. Okay, so now enough of the slabd LDIF file configuration that we have studied about. Now let us get into some action. So let us go to our next step, that is importing the configuration database. So as I said, like first we need to make sure that we have created the directory to hold our database, the MDB database data. So this is, we need to ensure that we have created this directory structure, and it has the LDAP services access to that directory structure. Because we have created it with sudo, it has root ownership on this folder. Now let us go into our step 8, that is importing the configuration database. So here, like the first thing that we need to do is we need to ensure that the following slabd .d directory is present, wherein we are going to store our slabd configuration database configuration files. Okay, so now let us go into our important step, that is, let me increase the screen's font size for this one, sorry about that one. Okay, so now let me copy this one, and here you can see like we are using the slab add utility in order to install our configuration database. This is slabd.ld file, which is presented user local etc OpenLDAP, and we are going to use -f in order to provide the location of the slabd configuration files, that is user local etc slabd, wherein it will store the slabd database configuration. Okay, and n is equal to n0. Basically this option means like the 0th database that we are going to configure, like basically store in the slapd configuration location. So -l is the LDIF file location, -n is add entries to the DB number database listed in the configuration file, and -f is specifying the config directory, that is this one. Okay, so now let me run this one, and now if you go into this location, it will create our configuration database files. So you will see the config LDIF, and if you go into the cn is equal to config, let me go into this sudo, and you can see like we have all this LDIF files created, which basically are the configuration files for our different databases. So we have our config database, which is our root. We have front-end database, which applies all the settings, common settings for all these databases, and we have MDB, and we have monitor database, and we have the schema database, you can say, and the module database. So these are all the different databases which we have available installed basically in this LDIF format. So the LDIF is also one type of database backend format which is supported by OpenLDAP. And if you try to open one of the so let me go into this location. User local etc slapd cn is equal to config, and try to open the MDB database that is important for us. So this contains the same information that we have defined. So it contains the directory, database directory, the suffix, the root DN, the root password, the object indices, and the access section that we have defined in our slapd.ld file. So basically all this information is stored in the separate LDIF database configuration file. Now let me go out of my sudo and clear my screen. Now that we have installed our configuration database files, the next thing that we are going to do is, so before that, so let us try to just briefly understand what we have looked in. So there is a root directory configuration, that is cn is equal to config. There is a dynamically loaded module, cn is equal to module. Object class used by this is OLC module list. Then we have the schema definition file. Then we have the backend definition file, configurations file, and we have the database specific configuration file. Right now we do not have any backend configuration database, but this is something different topic that we will try to look at in some other video. Now let us go into our next step, that is start the LDAP service. So here now what we are going to do is we are going to start our LDAP service using the slapd daemon and pass the configuration database file location. Okay, so now let us go and start the LDAP service, and if you look at ps-ef grep slapd, like you will see the slapd service or the LDAP services up and running. Now let us go into our next step, that is step 10, validating the slapd configuration and LDAP server. So once we have the configuration available, there is a thing that we can do. We can validate our configuration files using this slap test and passing the configuration database file location using -f, and it will show the config file testing succeeded. So that means the config files are good, and we are good to start the service. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to do an LDAP search. Now that our LDAP service is running, let us try to do an LDAP search using simple authentication with a base search which is empty, but we are going to look for object class star and get the naming context for that objects. Okay, so let us try to run this one, and if you see, the naming context is dc stack dc.com. So this is our domain, basically the naming context for our directory tree. So if we get this response, that means our LDAP service is up and running and we can query the LDAP service. But right now, like, we do not have any entries in our LDAP tree, so that is what we are going to look in our next steps. So in step 11, we are going to create our LDIF database entry file. So for that, we have I've already created a LDIF file for our stack.com domain. So let me show you that file. So this is these are all the entries that we are going to create in our LDAP directory. So this is the organization that we are going to create, the stack organization, and underneath this we are going to create a manager entity or entry with CN is equal to manager, and DN is the distinguisher name or the unique name with which we will be able to retrieve this entry. And next we are going to create some more entries. We are going to create CN is equal to admin, distinguisher name with object class organization role, and we are going to create a DevOps organization unit which will consist of the following users: Mark, Bob, and Alice. Okay, so in this is organization unit OU DevOps under which we are going to create 3 users, and we are going to define the following attributes, that is CN, common name, SN, surname, and user password. So these 3 attributes we are going to define for each of the user in the DevOps organization unit. So this is the LDIF file or the entries that we are going to create. So now let us go into our next step, that is adding entries to the LDAP directory tree. So here we are going to use the LDAP add utility, and we are going to do simple authentication by using the bind DN, that is CN is equal to manager with the bind password, and we are going to pass the LDIF file for the entries that we are going to create or add to the LDAP directory tree. The bind DN password is secret, so I'm just going to enter that one, and it has added all these entries. So you can see this is the root entry, and underneath we have this organization roles, CN is equal to admin and CN is equal to manager, and underneath the stack.com we have this DevOps organization unit, and under that organization unit we have these 3 users, Mark, Bob, and Alice, with the required attributes defined. Now let us go into our next step, that is step 13, that is searching the LDAP directory tree. So now we are going to again use the LDAP search utility to search for the entries in our LDAP directory tree. So here we are trying to restrict our search to this base, that is stack.com, and we are going to use this -t, that is bind DN, that is of the distinguisher name of Bob, in order to search for cn is equal to bob entry, and we are going to pass the password for the bind dn, and the bob user password is which is defined in user password, so bob@1234. so once you enter the password, like, you will get the entry related to the bob, and this password that you are going to see here is the password for bob, but this is encoded in base64 format, which can be decoded using base64 utility. So let me try to decode it. base64 minus t. So as you can see, the password that we have defined in the LDIF file is bob@1234 is what we have retrieved for this entry. So as you can see, the bob is the owner of this object or entry, so he is able to look at the password when he is searching for the entry, and he is able to retrieve the password using this decoding method. Now let us go further and try to search for an entry with cn is equal to Alice, but we are going to use the same binding, that is bob credentials. In that case, like, we will be we'll see from the output that the user password is missing. So you can see bob is able to search for the entry related to cn is equal to Alice, but when he retrieves the details of that entry, he is able to see only the common name and the surname, but he is not able to see the user password that is for Alice. The reason for that one is the access restrictions that we had defined. So let me go to that file again, which we have created for the configuration database. So if you see the OLC access, we have restricted the attribute user password, so that can be only like accessed by the self, by dn is equal to base, by every other user it is going to be none. So now let us go into our next step, that is searching for all the entries with object class person. Okay, so here, like, we are going to use the same bind dn, the same base search, but we are going to search for entries with object class person. So let me let me type the password correctly. So now you can see, like, it is able to search for all the entries related to object class person. So we have 3 users with object class person, that is Bob, Mark and Alice. Okay, you can see, like, all the entries have cn is equal to sn, but only entry related to the Bob, who is the owner of this that entry, is able to see his password. Now let me clear my screen, and now let me go into my next step, that is step 14. Here, like, what we are going to do is we are going to modify an entry in the LDAP directory for the user Bob, and we are going to change the password for him. So let me show you the LDIF file for the update or the modify that we are going to do. So here you can see, like, we are going to modify the following distinguished name of the entity, the LDAP object with change type modify, and what we are going to do is we are going to replace the user password with the following attribute and the new value, that is bob@4321. And now let us try to modify our entry using the LDAP modify utility. So here, like, we are going to use the same bind, we are going to use the bind dn for which is a root dn, and we are going to pass the file which contains the modified modification for that entity or the object. And let me type the password for the root dn, that is secret, and it shows modifying entry, that is Bob. So now the user password for this following entry has been changed to bob@4321. So let me clear my screen and try to do an LDAP search again for all the objects with person. And now if I type the old password, it is not going to work. Let me try with the new password, and here you go. Like, we are able to retrieve the entries for all the entries related to the object class person. And if we try to decode this password for the Bob, now you will get the new password, that is bob@4321. base 64 minus d is used for decoding. So you can see the new password is bob@4321. Now let me clear my screen. So until now, like, we have seen how we can add entries, we can modify how we can modify the entries, how we can search for the entries. And now what we are going to do is we are going to delete entries in the LDAP directory tree. So for that, we are going to use the following LDIF file, which I have already created, which is going to delete the following distinguished name cn is equal to Alice in the organization unit DevOps in our directory tree, and the change type is going to be delete. And we are again now going to use the LDAP modify utility in order to delete that entry. So we are going to use the simple authentication with bind dn and the password that we are going to enter, and the file that we are going to pass is for deleting that entry. So let me try to enter the root dn password. So it will now delete the entry. And now if you go for searching again for all the object entries with object class person, so sorry, let me enter the password for Bob, and now you can see, like, we have mark Bob only present. Alice entry has been removed from the organization unit DevOps. Okay, so that is what, like, we can we have seen right now. Like, we have seen, like, how we can compile, install the OpenLDAP package, and we have seen, like, how we can build a directory structure using the configuration database, LDAP data configuration LDAP database file, that is slabd.ldif file. And we have seen how we can utilize the LDAP utilities like LDAP add, LDAP modify, LDAP search to manage our entries in the LDAP directory tree. So this is all I wanted to show you in this video in order to see, like, how we can work with OpenLDAP. And LDAP services are very important in every organization, and having a basic understanding of them is very important for us to basically have some knowledge about the LDAP service that is running in our organization, and how we can utilize the LDAP utilities in order to like, search for entries and modify or delete or whatever you want to do with those entries. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you all. Thanks for watching this video, and you guys have a great day.